My name is Patrick McCabe, and growing up, my teeth were, honestly, a disaster. The kind of thing people notice right away. Because of that and a few other reasons I'd rather not get into, I ended up putting off getting my wisdom teeth removed way longer than anyone should. Most people deal with it in their teens, maybe early college. I didn't even start the process until after I'd already graduated, and that's when things started going wrong. If you enjoy real-life stories that slowly turn into something much darker, you might want to stay with this one. The surgery itself, bad, but the recovery, that was something else entirely. I won't drag you through every detail, but there's one thing you need to understand. This wasn't normal pain. This was the kind that wouldn't let you rest, wouldn't let you think, wouldn't let you escape. The only way I could get through the nights was by forcing myself awake over and over again just to take more medication. I built this routine, if you can even call it that, where I drag myself out of sleep every few hours, barely conscious, just to swallow another pill and hope it would keep the pain from coming back full force. Then I'd lie there, waiting, not even sure if I'd fall asleep again before the next wave hit. It was exhausting. It was miserable. And after a while, it started to mess with me. My sleep wasn't really sleep anymore. It was broken, fragmented, like my body forgot what rest was supposed to feel like. Days blurred together, nights felt endless, and I stopped feeling like myself. And that's when everything began to spiral. My body never really recovered from that routine. Even after the worst of the pain started fading, something in me stayed. Off. Sleep didn't feel like sleep anymore. It came in fragments, short, shallow drops into darkness before I was yanked back out again. Over and over, night after night. It got to the point where I stopped feeling like myself. I'd lie there, staring into nothing, unsure if I was awake or dreaming. My thoughts felt slower, heavier. My body didn't feel like it belonged to me anymore. It was like I was stuck in this endless loop, trapped between exhaustion and awareness. And then came that night. I woke up again, just like always, forcing myself up to take another pill. But this time, something was different. I swallowed the medication, lay back down, and waited for sleep to pull me under again. It never did. Instead, the heat started creeping in. At first, it was subtle. Then it became unbearable. The air in my room felt thick, suffocating, like I was breathing through something invisible. My skin felt sticky, my chest tight. It didn't make sense. My room was never like that. I tossed, turned, flipped my pillow, tried everything. Nothing helped. After what felt like forever, I gave up and got out of bed. The only thing I could think to do was open the window. The moment I did, a faint breeze slipped inside. Cool, but not comforting. Just enough to make the silence feel sharper. I climbed back into bed, staring at the ceiling, begging my body to shut down. But the longer I lay there, the more aware I became of the outside. At first, it was just a faint sound, easy to ignore. Something you'd normally write off without thinking, but I couldn't ignore it, because it didn't stop. It came again and again. A slow, dragging noise, like something scraping across a hard surface. I held my breath, listening harder. My heart started to beat just a little faster. I told myself it was nothing, just some animal. Maybe branches shifting, anything normal. But it didn't sound normal. There was intention in it, movement. The sound would pause, then continue. Like whatever was making it was adjusting its position. And then it got louder, close enough that I could feel it, not just hear it. That's when it hit me. It wasn't coming from outside the yard. It wasn't even at ground level. It was directly above me, on the roof. Something was up there. And if you think you already know what's coming, trust me, it gets worse. And it wasn't just passing by. It was moving, slowly, deliberately, as if it knew exactly where I was lying beneath it. At that point, I convinced myself it had to be some kind of animal. We live surrounded by trees, so it wouldn't have been unusual. Raccoons, possums, we've dealt with them before. I wanted to ignore it, roll over, and force myself back to sleep. But I knew if something got into the attic again, my dad would lose it. And honestly, I wasn't even close to sleeping anymore. So I got up, I threw the covers aside, my body still heavy from exhaustion, and made my way through the house. Everything felt too quiet, too still. I grabbed one of my dad's heavy-duty flashlights from the garage and headed for the back door, trying to shake the feeling crawling up my spine. The moment I stepped outside, the air felt different, cooler, but wrong. I moved toward the spot just beneath my window and aimed the flashlight up, sweeping the beam slowly across the roof. Nothing. Just empty shingles staring back at me. For a second, I almost felt relief. Maybe it had already left. But something didn't sit right. I started walking along the side of the house, angling the light higher, trying to cover every inch. If it was still up there, I'd find it. I just needed one glimpse, just enough to scare it off. That's all I thought this was. Until I saw it. A shift. Subtle. Barely there. Just at the edge of the light. My heart skipped. I snapped the flashlight toward it, and everything inside me dropped. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't anything I could explain away. There, standing on the roof, was a person. Completely still. Completely exposed. A full-grown man, motionless under the beam, like he'd been waiting to be seen. For a split second, neither of us moved. Then it hit me, and I yelled without even thinking. And the moment I did, he reacted. Not like someone startled, more like something disturbed. His body twisted, fast, too fast, and he began moving across the roof, jerking away from the light like it burned him. I tried to keep the light on him, but it was useless. He moved in a way that didn't make sense, too fast, too erratic. Bare feet scraping across loose shingles, yet he never slipped, never slowed. In seconds, he was already heading back toward the side of the house where my room was, and instead of running inside like I should have, I ran after him. I don't know why. Some instinct took over, something reckless, something that told me I couldn't just let him get away. I shouted for my dad as I sprinted, my voice cracking, hoping he'd hear me in time. By the time I reached the back, I saw him, right at the edge of the roof, and then I realized what he was about to do. There was no way. No normal person would even consider it. The drop alone should have stopped him. It should have forced him to hesitate, to climb down, to think. He didn't. He stepped forward and jumped. He hit the ground hard enough that I felt it through my feet. For a split second, everything inside me locked up. My brain refused to process what I had just seen. No one walks away from that, but he did. He stood up almost instantly, and then he looked straight at me. That's when I understood. I wasn't watching something strange anymore. I was the target. Before I could react, he rushed forward and slammed into me, knocking me flat onto the ground. The impact knocked the air out of my chest. I tried to push him off, tried to get my footing, but he was already on top of me. His movements were wild, uncontrolled. His hands came up toward my face, clawing, desperate, like he was trying to tear through me. I struggled, kicked, twisted, anything to break free, but it felt like fighting something that didn't get tired. I could feel warmth running down my face. I couldn't see clearly anymore, and for a moment, a very real moment, I thought that was it. Then everything shifted. The back door flew open, and my dad came charging out, shouting, grabbing him and dragging him off me with everything he had. I rolled away, gasping, trying to understand what was happening as my vision steadied. But even that didn't stop him. He broke free, just slipped out of my dad's grip like it meant nothing, his entire body smeared with my blood, and then he ran. Not away like someone scared, but like something that had decided it was done. He reached the edge of the yard, cleared the fence in one motion, and vanished into the darkness beyond. And just like that, he was gone. I'll skip ahead, because everything after that felt like a blur anyway. We rushed to the hospital. I remember the drive more than anything, my dad gripping the wheel like his life depended on it, barely keeping control while I sat there trying to stay conscious. There was so much blood, more than I ever thought possible. The doctors moved fast. Questions, lights, needles, too many at once. They treated the wounds, gave me shots, ran tests. Anything to make sure whatever that man had, I didn't end up with too. It felt unreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. Strangely enough, my mouth was untouched. After everything I had just gone through with my teeth, that was the one thing that stayed intact. It didn't make sense, but nothing about that night did. The police showed up, asked their questions, walked around a bit, and that was it. No real answers, no real effort. They said the woods behind our house were too large to search properly, that even if they tried, whoever it was would be long gone. One of them even suggested that cameras might have stopped it, like that would have made any difference. Later, my dad checked the roof more closely, and that's when things got worse. There were marks up there, deep ones, like something had been digging, trying to force its way inside. Not like a person, like an animal, but I knew what I saw, and somehow, that made it worse. You'd think I'd be the one most shaken by it, or my dad, after everything he saw. But it was my mom. She couldn't stop thinking about it, couldn't stop imagining what might have happened if things had gone just a little differently. She's the reason we changed everything, locks, lights, security, all of it. And even now, none of it answers the real question. Who was he? Where did he come from? And why? Did he choose our house? because whatever that was, I can't shake the feeling it wasn't random. Even after everything that happened, I tried to move on. But a few months later, something else happened, and this time, it felt even closer. I call it unique, but most people just say it's strange, and they're not wrong. Anyone who's been over has pointed it out. It's the kind of layout that feels normal at first, until you realize something about it is just slightly off. Instead of a simple front porch, there's this narrow, covered passage leading to the front door. Like you're walking between parts of the house before you even step inside, and my room sits right beside that passage. From my bed, I can look straight out the window and see whoever's standing at the front door, but they can't see me. I used to think that was cool, like having a hidden view, a way to check who is outside without being seen. I don't think that anymore. This happened not long ago, when my parents were out of town for a few days. I had the house to myself, so I invited my girlfriend Anna to stay over. Nothing crazy, just quiet nights, movies, couple drinks. Everything felt normal, safe, until it didn't. The second night, we were lying in bed, talking quietly, right on the edge of sleep, when I heard something outside. At first, I thought I imagined it. Then it came again, a dragging sound. Slow, uneven, like something being pulled across the ground. I told Anna to stay in bed and went to check it out. It sounded like it was coming from the driveway, close enough that it immediately put me on edge. I figured it had to be an animal messing with the trash cans, nothing unusual. That's what I told myself. I stepped outside, turned on the lights, and waited. Nothing. No movement. No sound. Just silence pressing in from every direction. That silence felt wrong. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and walked toward the driveway. One of the trash cans had been knocked over, its contents scattered across the ground. The others were untouched. But there was no animal, no movement, nothing hiding in the shadows. I stood there longer than I should have, scanning the darkness, waiting for something, anything to reveal itself. It never did. Eventually, I cleaned it up, moved the bins inside, and locked everything down. Told myself it was over. Just something small, something explainable. I went back to bed. Anna was barely awake. I lay down beside her, trying to relax, letting myself drift into that strange half-sleep again, that place where you're not fully gone, but not fully here either. And that's when I heard it. A soft tapping. Light. Repetitive. At first, I thought it was part of a dream, but it didn't stop. My eyes opened slowly, and I stayed completely still, listening. The sound was too clear, too close, but it wasn't coming from inside the room. It was coming from just outside the window. My chest tightened. Slowly, I got up and pulled the curtain back just enough to see. There was someone standing at the front door, facing away from me, completely still. I watched for a few seconds, trying to make sense of it, and then I noticed their hand. They were tapping, over and over, like they were waiting to be let in. At that hour, in complete darkness, with no lights on. It didn't make sense. Then, without warning, they started to turn. I dropped instantly, crouching below the window, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might give me away. I stayed there, frozen, counting seconds that felt like minutes. Had they seen me? Were they still there? I didn't want to look again, but I had to. Slowly, carefully. I stood back up and pulled the curtain aside, and immediately wished I hadn't, because this time, they weren't at the door anymore. They were right outside the window, just inches away, staring straight at me. I stumbled backward onto the bed, yelling without even realizing it. Anna jolted awake, confused, and I barely got the words out someone was outside. Right outside. I rushed to lock the bedroom door, my hands shaking, then grabbed my phone and called the police. We didn't move after that. We just stayed there, pressed into the corner of the room, listening, waiting for something, anything to happen again. Every second stretched longer than it should have. I kept expecting to hear that tapping, or worse, something closer. I wanted to check the front door. I really did. But Anna wouldn't let go of me, and deep down, I wasn't sure I actually wanted to see what was out there anymore. When the police finally arrived, it felt like the air shifted. I let them in, trying to explain everything as clearly as I could, even though it sounded insane coming out of my own mouth. They checked the house, every room, every entry point. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. Everything was locked, just like it should have been. Then they searched outside. Flashlights sweeping across the yard, along the walls, into the shadows. But they didn't find anything either. No footprints. No disturbances. No one. It was like he had never been there. One of them told me to call again if I saw anything unusual. Then they left. Just like that. And the house went quiet again. The rest of the week passed without anything happening. No sounds, no movement, Nothing out of place. When I told my parents, they didn't react the way I expected. If anything, they seemed unconcerned, like it was just some random guy passing through. After a while, I started to question myself too. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe it really was nothing. But if that were true, this wouldn't still be happening. Because lately, I've been waking up again in the middle of the night. Not to silence, to sounds. Different ones this time. Subtle, inconsistent, but always coming from the same place. Right outside my window. I told my dad, and now he's talking about putting cameras around the house. Extra lights, more security. But none of that changes the feeling that this wasn't random. That whoever stood outside my house that night, it didn't just leave. And the worst part, I don't think he ever really went away. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, something else happened. And this time, there was no one to help. Even now, months later, I still catch myself thinking about it when the house gets too quiet. I've managed to move on, at least on the surface, but there are moments where it all comes rushing back like it never left. I live alone, mid-30s, small, single-story house. Nothing fancy, just enough space for one person. No pets, no roommates, just me. And honestly, I liked it that way. I work on my own schedule, answer to no one, and for a long time, that freedom felt like the perfect life. No interruptions, no responsibilities beyond my own. Just silence, control, and time. A lot of time. Too much. Maybe. Because somewhere along the way, my habits got off. My sleep schedule especially. I'd stay up through the night, completely wired, and crash when the sun came up. It felt normal to me. Comfortable. Until that night, I was sitting at my desk, completely focused. The world outside practically non-existent. No distractions. Just me, my thoughts, and the rhythm of my work. And then, everything shattered. Out of nowhere, I heard it. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Rushing down the hallway, straight toward my bedroom. Before I could even react, someone slammed against my door. Once. Twice. Again. Hard enough that the entire frame shook. I jumped up so fast, I nearly knocked everything over. My heart was racing, my mind scrambling to catch up with what was happening. That kind of sound in a house that should have been empty? It doesn't make sense. I stood there, staring at the door, waiting for it to burst open, waiting for someone to come through. I could already picture it, someone rushing in, the room going dark, no time to react. But it never happened. The pounding stopped. Just like that. Silence. No footsteps. No movement. Nothing. For a moment, I actually questioned myself. Had I imagined it? Was I that exhausted? No, because then I heard it again. The same footsteps. But this time, they were moving away, walking back down the hallway. That's when something in me snapped back on. Without thinking, I grabbed the closest thing I could, a bottle from my desk, and rushed to the door. If someone was in my house, I wasn't going to just stand there. I threw the door open and ran. Through the hallway. Into every room. Checking everywhere. Nothing. No one. My house isn't big. There's nowhere to hide. I checked everything twice. Then again. Still nothing. And that's when I noticed it. Every door was locked. Every window. Sealed. No sign of entry. No way in. No way out. The adrenaline drained out of me all at once, replaced by something much worse. A creeping, sinking feeling that I couldn't explain. I went back to my room, locked the door, and called the police. While I waited, I didn't move. I just listened. But the house stayed completely still. When the officers arrived, they searched everything with me. Same results. Nothing out of place. No one inside. No explanation. One of them suggested someone had come and gone without me noticing. But I knew better. I knew what I heard. That wasn't something you miss. For days after, I couldn't function properly. Sleep was impossible. Every sound felt amplified. Every shadow felt wrong. My mind kept replaying it, over and over, trying to find some logical explanation. I never found one. Even now, the only thing I can tell myself is that maybe, somehow, something was left unlocked. Maybe I missed something. But deep down, I know that's not true. Because if someone really was inside my house that night, then the question isn't how they got in, it's how they got out, without a trace. And if something like this has ever happened to you, you're not alone. If you've ever experienced something strange or unsettling like this, or you have a story you think people need to hear, feel free to send it to me through the email in the description. I read every submission, and your story might be the next one featured here.